All right. Well, yeah, thank you for going ahead and joining us here today. We are going to do some brief introductions and then Christian will be presenting first. But my name is Jennifer Solf. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Winnett ACES.
My name is Christian Meny. I'm the Director of Conservation at Montana Audubon.
My name is Heather Bilden, and my husband Bart and I ranch over in Lavina.
I'm Bill Milton, and yeah, my wife Dana and I and a few others take care of our place out here in Muscle County. And we do have another person, Jennifer. Did you see that?
I do, yes.
Great.
Thank you for
Glad
joining
you joined us.
Well, yeah, shall I jump in?
Yeah, that sounds excellent.
Okay. So as I said, I'm the Director of Conservation at Montana Audubon, and a big part of our program these days is the conservation ranching program. So this is actually a National Audubon Society initiative, but here in Montana, we facilitate it. The motivation, well, I should say the scope of the program is the Western United States, and it's growing. It's grown into California, and it's recently grown into Minnesota, I believe Wisconsin, and so it's a growing program. And the reason that it occurs mostly in the Western United States is because that's where the last best rangelands are really, and therefore habitat for grassland birds. So in the last 50 years, there's been an alarming decline in really all bird species, unfortunately, but grassland birds have seen the biggest hit, and that's due to the conversion of prairie mostly to cropland. Pesticides also contribute a lot to that, but we've seen over 50% decline in grassland birds. And so the good thing is, I think, in Montana, we have some of the last best habitat left for grassland birds, and that's largely because we have cattle ranching in Montana, and it's still alive and well. Therefore, looking at these species on the left, there's a lot of good priority grassland habitat. And so National Audubon started this initiative, and the purpose of this was to stabilize declining grassland bird populations in partnership with private land stewards. Well, in this case, this happens to be cattle and bison ranchers largely. And so the approach is to enroll ranchers in this program, and so that the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program provides a number of benefits to these ranchers and helps support the ranchers so that they can help and continue to support grassland birds and their habitats. And so there's a seal gained through the certification, and we hope that ranchers can tell their story of their good land stewardship and land management, and that the seal can also empower consumers to promote land stewardship through buying beef and bison products from Audubon certified lands. And there's also a slew of other benefits that I'll discuss. So yeah, right now I'd just like to take a minute to talk a little bit about how the program works and the benefits to ranchers and birds. If you were to be interested in becoming Audubon certified, this is the general path. either the rancher shows interest or sometimes I will, give them a call or knock on a door. If they would like to enroll in the program, Montana Audubon would assess the eligibility of that ranch. And there's just a few really basic tenets that are involved in becoming Audubon certified. So to use the actual Audubon seal, like I show there, the green seal on beef and bison products, some of your cattle or bison would need to be grass finished, although it's not totally necessary. We certify the land and not the actual beef and bison products. So, but if you want to use the seal on your products, then those animals need to be grass finished. No subtherapeutic antibiotics, and then simply no conversion of grassland. So the program is looking to keep grass in grass for the bird habitat that it provides. If the ranch is eligible, Montana Audubon would work with the rancher to develop what we call a habitat management plan, which tends to take maybe 3 months to draft. And this initiates management practices on that ranch. It also outlines goals and objectives for that rancher, and it just looks to improve habitat, among other things. And then once we have a habitat management plan drafted for that ranch, the Food Alliance, which is our third-party auditor out of Oregon, will send an auditor, and they make sure that the ranch qualifies, and then hopefully that ranch is certified. In general, our habitat management plan, one of the primary goals is to create some kind of regenerative grazing system. And this is great for bird habitat in that, these lands were evolved with bison and large grazers on them. And so in some ways we're doing, sort of a biomimicry using using cattle generally, and sometimes bison still, to mimic those, that sort of, historic grazing. And a healthy grassland needs grazers, really, to keep the grass and the soil healthy. And so for birds, this is great because a mosaic and a patchwork of different densities and heights of grasses and forbs creates different habitat for different species. And so looking at some of these priority grassland birds here, these are all Montana native birds. We've got western meadowlark, thick-billed longspur, chestnut-colored longspur, Baird sparrow, and loggerhead shrike from left to right. You'll see that they kind of prefer different heights and densities of grasses. And so that's kind of the overarching goal for having Audubon certified lands as far as benefits to birds. There's also great benefit in a regenerative type grazing system for other species, including the micro herd in the soil, pollinators, insects. And then of course, ideally, a regenerative type grazing system will benefit the rancher in that the forage is better and there may be more winter forage and things like that, increased forage overall per acre. And so this is kind of a neat graph that the Peccani Lodge Health Institute let me use, showing where the grazing is decreased, the stock density is increased, and there's a lot of rest on the landscape. And that's sort of, in general, what a rotational or regenerative grazing system is. So those are some of the benefits to birds and grassland bird habitat. I think there's a lot of benefits for the ranchers, obviously, and it's a mutualism for sure. The Audubon certification is inexpensive. Right now, we're able to pay for the cost of certification and the Food Alliance audit fees. We write a habitat management plan. which I think ideally is good not only for bird habitat, but also hopefully increasing forage and increasing the health of soil and things like that. We provide free bird monitoring, so we give you a really professional inventory of bird life on your land, which, you know, may be simply of interest to you, but also could be used in agro-tourism and things like that. There are marketing and market developments, including using the Audubon seal, which I sort of talked about before. And then when we go through writing the the habitat management plan, often when we work with ranchers to identify goals and objectives, we can find certain projects that would fit those goals and objectives that are, you know, make for really good grant proposals, and we can find some grant funding for ranch projects, which I love doing that. And then we're also able to provide workshops and technical development opportunities. And so, yeah, these are just some of the benefits to ranchers. I guess before we leave today, I just wanted to mention that there's a couple opportunities coming up now in the future here in September and November. We've got 2 ranching for profit. They're just, I believe, 2-day events, maybe 2 to 3 day events or maybe Jennifer can correct me on that, but actually it looks like 1-day event. But in November 14th in Lewistown, and then on the 15th in Winnett. And then I wanted to remind everybody of the Western Sustainability Exchange Expanding Markets Conference in November. Oops. Sorry, that's in September at the Bighorn Resort in Billings. That's 9/23 through 9/25, a 3-day event and a very good conference. Just talking about market connections and how for us, it's how Audubon certified ranchers, if you will, can maybe make some market connections in and around the region. So I'd be remiss not to mention our funding partners, which is a list here, of course, including foundations, state agencies, as well as that's federal agencies. And so, yeah, that was a very brief introduction, hopefully not too brief, but if anybody is interested in becoming Audubon certified and would like to talk about it, please feel free to reach out to me at my email address listed here, and I'd be happy to chat. And yeah, that's what I've got for today. But even better, we've got 2 Audubon certified ranchers joining us, and I'd love to just hear their stories and about benefits or things that they like about being in the Audubon program.
Christian, before we dive into me and Bill speaking, quick question. If someone was interested, I had the Western Sustainability Exchange on my calendar already, but the ranching for profit opportunities you mentioned are new to me. So if someone's interested in those, is that an email to you as well?
Yeah, well, no, I should mention that these opportunities are in partnership with Winnett ACES. Okay. As well as Stewardship Through Agriculture, which is a new group forming in Winifred. Oh, no. And then the DNRC, what an RRP program is also sponsoring that. But I think the best contact for these opportunities would be Jennifer at Winnett ACES.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'd be happy to go ahead and speak about my experience in the program. We joined the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program back when they were sort of just getting going in Montana. I think that was 2020 or maybe 2021. My husband and I had started making some management decisions around the ranch in 2017 when his father was ready to sit back a little bit and think about retirement. So we had a few years of management under our belts, but we're still figuring out how we might want to do some things differently, and new ways of approaching some problems as newer problems were arising as well. So I found that the process of going through the habitat management plan with the staff from Audubon to be really helpful. We had had some previous contact with NRCS, and they had been really helpful as well in designing some programs to spread our cattle over the land better and move us in some directions we wanted to go. And sort of formalizing a lot of that through the creation of a habitat management plan was really helpful. So it wasn't necessarily in our case needing to add a whole bunch of new ways or complicated different structures to our ranch, but rather sort of formalized the direction we were already going and allowed us to just get that in writing and give us some clear guidance on what we were intending to do and how we were going to get there. So that process, it took about 3 months just sort of to put together. As Christian said, it's a little bit lengthy, but it's really just that process of getting everything that you've got in your head, or maybe the maps on your wall, getting all of that onto paper into one place, going through some revisions and some edits, and then getting it approved. So it took a little time, but it was not onerous at all. It was quite helpful to us. We were at that time selling grass-fed beef, and we still are selling grass-fed beef to the public. So as part of that, I was really interested in the labeling opportunity that the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program provides. I had looked into a number of different types of certifications you can get to show how you're taking care of the land or the animals. And I did find that the Audubon label was really manageable. We are on the smaller side as far as ranches go, and some of the programs were quite expensive and didn't really have a good sliding scale for smaller ranches. So it was just really cost prohibitive to do some of the other certifications that are out there. I found working with Audubon, as Christian said, at this point, they're able to cover the audit costs with their third party. And so the certification was super affordable for us. And I do think that having that label on our farmers market sign draws people in. They come over and they kind of ask, what does that mean? How do you have bird friendly beef? What does that look like on the land? So it's a good conversation starter because people do recognize the name Audubon. And I find that it draws folks in to ask more and get those conversations going. So that's been helpful to us as well, to help kind of show that there is some certifiable standards that we're holding ourselves to with our meat, because it's easy for anyone to say that your beef is all natural or grass finished. But when you have someone actually giving you that stamp of approval, it gains a level of legitimacy that I think the consumer can really appreciate. I really also, through the program, have enjoyed the opportunity to do the bird surveys. Not only do they come and do the surveys, but if you want to get up at 4:30 in the morning and join them, you can. And so for me, that's been a lot of fun. I appreciate the birds on my own, but there's a level of learning a lot of the prairie birds you need to learn by sound, and that's a lot harder to learn. And so going out with Christian or Amy or Peter or some of the folks that have come out over the last few years, being able to bird side by side with them is such a rich learning opportunity. Just can't say enough about when they can hear something and no one can see it because it's over in the grass, so you can't go by those nice visual cues. And if you did see the bird, it's probably just going to be a small brown sparrow. But when you hear it calling, they have such varied, different songs that are so memorable once you can put that song to a name. So the experience of getting to go out with them and do these surveys and kind of geek out on nature with other people that love it has been really enjoyable for me as well. I think lastly, and which is really quite large, has been the grant funding that we have been been made available to us through this program. So we, in joining as early as we did get to partake in their National Fish and Wildlife Federation grant. That grant is wrapping up pretty soon here. But I'm sure they will be finding other granting opportunities in the future to help ranches. And for us, participating in the NIFWIF grant, as we call it, helped us do some reseeding of some prairie that had been farmed in the 90s and wasn't in great shape, and we wanted to put it back to more native pasture. So the grants were able to help us with that process, doing some cover crops, some soil amendments, and finally getting the native mix back in. And then it's also helped us with some riparian restoration. Coulee Creek goes through our ranch. That is the name of our business, is Coulee Creek Ranch. And there is a pretty active beaver colony on the creek. Although as it floods in the spring, they can come and go. And so we put in for that grant some riparian restoration funds as well to help us keep the beaver around and keep them happy. So it's been really nice. The grant opportunities with them have been really flexible. I find Christian is super easy to work with, very responsive, and that's a lot. Sometimes some of the grants you look at are onerous in terms of paperwork, and it can be hard to get anyone on the phone to really answer questions and get information back to you, but that has not been the case at all working with Montana Audubon and with Christian. Things are just kind of smooth and work out very nicely, and it just is nice to be able to tap into such a large grant program. As a kind of a small ranch, it's just me and my husband. We don't have a grant writer ourselves. I'm the grant writer and the grant reporter and all of that. And so to be able to partner with a bigger organization like Montana Audubon to get that level of funding is huge. It's just such a big support for us. So I would say those are some of the main benefits I've felt, and how, participating in the program has really helped us as a ranch. And I'd be happy to turn it over to Bill to share what you've got.
Well, Christian, I think you should hire Heather. That was probably the big, that was probably the most
Yeah, we've
positive
tried already. We're working on
for
that.
your program. So, so ditto. But, in terms of, our particularly unique situation, I've always been a birder myself. I was intrigued by the bird friendly ranching program, and our ranch tends to want to partner with anyone and everyone that's all on a similar page of improving grasslands. And so, yeah, we work with some other nonprofits like Rural Wildlife Fund and TNC. And so the bird friendly program was just a nice complementary fit to a host of other partners that we're working with, not just on our ranch, but also on the larger northern plains. A lot of activity trying to protect grasslands at scale. So I think it's just great that Audubon, a large national organization, in which I suspect some of their members aren't as keen about beef. I think World Wildlife Fund, you find that same thing. But for them to just get right out there and say, yeah, if we're going to protect grasslands, we're going to have to work with private landowners who manage those grasslands. And most of the grasslands in the northern plains and southern plains are privately owned. You don't see a lot of super national parks in the grasslands like you do in the forest and stuff. So I just think they've been this has been a great addition to the overall large conservation effort of a particular biome that's in serious threat. I was surprised just how helpful, and again, like Heather on the NIFWIP grant and the grant stuff we had been working with NRCS, have been for some time on improving our water delivery, our pipelines, and Christian was able to come in and offer some significant resources to add that partnership and played a really important role of helping us. I mean, I think we're on our last phase right now, but the first two phases, that NIFWIP grant helped us, complete those, and they were super welcome. And those kind of resources to improve infrastructure on our ranches is often hard to generate from just your livestock enterprise sometimes. So, and having these good water systems allow us to do what the purpose of all these programs is. Yeah, how could we as ranchers learn how to do a better job on managing grasslands? So, yeah, and I think I was kind of disappointed this year. I was waiting because Christian had come out for like 2 or 3 years to do bird monitoring, and as Heather said, Christian's a good birder, and it's always great to get someone who's really professional that goes out and verifies what I felt pretty comfortable we had, but he identified some things I'd missed. So I just love having professional biologists show up at the ranch and identify things that, even though we're here all the time, we sometimes miss. So just the joy of the camaraderie of being able to experience the biology in our place, just for ourselves. Despite making sure we're protecting this habitat for all the people in our country, is a great thing. Now, we haven't really leveraged the marketing opportunity, but Christian, I was impressed in your initial slide how many connections that seem to be occurring with some of the other Audubon bird-friendly ranches in the West. We work with a ranch over in western Montana that purchases our open cattle, and so they do go into I don't know, probably some of you heard of the Mannix Ranch or Old Salt Works and stuff. So we're been kind of working with them, and so we already had that in place. So, but I really, even if it didn't benefit us personally in the short term, developing a program of certifying and creating opportunities for grass-fed beef is a really positive thing, and as another enterprise to we ranchers out here. We're also part of a co-op that actually sells beef into a larger program, and it's grain finished beef, so it's and they do a nice job, but it's just nice to be able to work both. I think if I thought we could sell all our beef grass fed, that'd be great, but it's nice to have both these marketing opportunities. So yeah, I just think and to the ease, yeah, they very supportive in terms of walking through the management plan and habitat plan. We were also working with the Nature Conservancy through a CCAA, which is a conservation candidate for with insurances. I always miss one of the words, but and so that required a little collaboration to not have entirely two different habitat plans. And Christian and Kelsey Malloy at TNC up at the Matador were quite willing to collaborate and do a common habitat plan versus saying, you're in this program with us and you got to do it this way, and you're in this program with us and you have to do it this way. And I think if we get more of the NGOs to complement each other, and Christian knows that we've been working on a monitoring program for quite some time, trying to get everybody kind of on the same page. And ACES is kind of running with that right now. And but again, Audubon plays an important role there as well. So yeah, Christian, you're doing a great job, and I wish there were thousands. Because there will be, I'm sure, a lot more people joining. But I'm impressed. You guys, I mean, how many million acres? Like 3.5 million acres or something?
I think, yeah, nationwide,
That's
3 to 3.5.
That's pretty cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's great, and it seems to be growing, and yeah, I can't thank you both for the work you do. Thank you enough for it. It's so important, and I love to be a part of it and support it any way I can. Um, yeah, one thing one big benefit I think of being a part of this program is just the community. I love meeting the ranchers, and we're always trying to work as well as conservation partners up here in the Northern Great Plains, and whether it's working on biological monitoring with TNC and World Wildlife Fund, or World Wildlife Fund and ourselves have been able to kind of work together to deliver native seeds through their program. That's amazing, and I hope to continue with that network, but then also this marketing and this market network. If I can help support making connections, which we've been able to make some ground on, including with this expanding markets conference coming up with the Western Sustainability Exchange. We had call cow deal with Blue Nest Beef, and they were looking for Audubon certified call cows. That was last fall, and that was a success, if you will, in its pilot. Yeah, and I know the Old Salt group. I'm always trying to get in Cole's ear and work with them as well, and hope to in the future. So I just think another benefit is just being a part of this regenerative community, which I'm proud to be a part of, and hope to just continue to be a part of. So thanks so much for joining me, Heather and Bill. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'll be in the audience asking questions. I'm going to ask a question here. So with all the bird monitoring you're doing with ranchers, how are you integrating that? Working with Bird Conservancy, the Rockies, and we know we have all these different groups. How are you guys doing bringing, a functional analysis of all this monitoring into some kind of larger trend, analysis that, we're all concerned about some key birds here, but are you guys making some headway and getting some kind of a way to really start seeing what's happening here in the last decade with these birds that have been in decline?
Yeah, I think so. We attempt to integrate in any way possible, and so the survey protocol we use is the exact same one that Bird Conservancy uses in their IMBCR program, which runs across the entire Western United States. So we use that protocol, and some of the ranches are sort of the larger acreage ranches. We actually feed that data into their data set. And so all that data feeds into population estimates across the Rocky Mountains in the Western United States for birds that have enough detections. So all these grassland priority birds, basically data goes in for them, and so it bolsters their estimates. It makes them stronger across the Western United States. Otherwise, all of our data, no matter what the size of the ranch, feeds into the Montana Natural Heritage Program site at the Montana State Library. And it's the good data. They really think it's high quality data because we use these protocols that are tried and true that the Bird Conservancy developed. And so all that data feeds into their distribution models. They can build those colorful heat maps of, species, grassland sparrow, grasshopper sparrow density in Montana. And you see, if it's in the red and on those heat maps, it's higher density in those areas. So it provides a lot of inference to distribution of birds and hotspots for conservation and things like that. So those are two ways. And then the third thing is the Audubon Conservation Ranching Program, National Audubon Society's biometricians create a bird friendliness index, the BFI, for each ranch that's in the program. So you guys, since you're in the program, will have a BFI number for your ranch. And that's can be compared to all lands around it. And hopefully you see through habitat management an increase in the priority grassland bird species. So that they produce those on an annual basis, and they can use that BFI and compare it to, say, the Bird Conservancy's IMBCR estimates. Those also feed into it. So you get some sense of bird populations in localized, at localized sites that can be comparable to other sites around you or in the state or in the region. So those are 3 ways in which we integrate the data. And then otherwise, we've been able to overlap with World Wildlife Fund and the TNC, like you said, Bill. And since we all use the same survey protocol, I can share data with World Wildlife Fund or TNC and vice versa. And so we've been able to do that at your ranch, I believe, Bill, where I just talked to Kelsey and Marissa at TNC, and we were able to do the surveying for them. And then I also provided our data to the World Wildlife Fund. So we were able to integrate our data with those between 3 organizations because we all use the same methodology.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, good question. Good question. But I think that's all I have for today.
Excellent. No, thank you so much for all of you being able to provide all of that information and your experiences. I will also just remind folks that this recording will be on the Winnett ACES YouTube channel as well. And Christian, if you have any further information or, documents / brochures, you can certainly email those my way and I can forward them to anybody who might reach out with further interest or inquiring about the program and just Montana Audubon in general, if that sounds good.
Sounds good. Yes. And anybody feel free to reach out to me and we'll chat, but I'll send you more info. And thanks so much for having us today, Jennifer.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thanks again. I will go ahead and stop recording here.
Thanks, Jennifer and Christian, and good luck.
Thank you.
Are you going to the Pheasants Forever thing this afternoon?
I'm